Looks like Justin Trudeau is about to call an election for the fall. So let's review what he's done. Um, he let Theresa Tam make all her decisions about COVID. And I do believe that Theresa Tam at one time said that the lab leak hypothesis was a conspiracy theory. I'll tell you something about when people say conspiracy theory. What they mean when they say that is stop thinking. That's what they mean. I'm going to stop thinking, you stop thinking, and I'm going to take a political tack on this issue. She said that the lab leak hypothesis, which she would have known was a valid hypothesis from the very beginning. Nobody probably in the world was as well positioned as her to know that. Nobody outside China. And that colored everything that she did after that. So that's a big deal. In the United States, Fauci, if he keeps lying about it, if he keeps lying about whether or not the United States paid for gain of function research, something that hasn't even been discussed that I can see in Canada, well, he's going to jail. Theresa Tam should be going to jail. Should be on trial, headed for jail. She betrayed Canada. Her allegiance wasn't solely to Canada. It was to the World Health Organization. And the World Health Organization was funded largely by the Chinese Communist Party. So who was she working for, literally? I'd like to see whether or not she has a numbered account anyplace. That is a nasty, nasty woman. She called us racist for wanting to shut down flights from China. She put all of our faith in a vaccine on China, and that wasted like 2 or 3 months of our time. How many lives did that cost? How much money did it cost? The specifics of how she dealt with it after that, or the public health officials dealt with it after that, I'm not going to comment. But I will comment about her. Okay, so she let it in. She probably did a lot to help stop it. It devastated the economy. And so what did Justin do? He borrowed a lot of money. I think $500 billion or more than that. And to their credit, they borrowed a lot of it, I think, at like 1% interest. Actually, if you can lock in a huge loan at 1%, at a 1% interest rate, you're probably nuts not to do it. Yeah. But it does go on the debt, and yeah, they've locked it in at 1%, I think. So there's not, conservatives talk, well, what if the inflation rate goes up on that debt? Well, it's not going to. But interest rates on capital have to go up. It's all been lent out, I'm sorry. So you'd expect an increase in interest rates. Except for what they've also done is just printed a lot of money. So who knows what's going on. But definitely what will result from that is incredibly high inflation. It's already happened. And that always hurts the working class the most. So they claim to be working for the middle class, and those working hard to join it or whatever. They just screwed you big time. If you don't already own a house and you're working class or working hard to join the middle class, you just got screwed big time. Unless the prices fall, I don't know how that can happen. So they borrowed money, they printed money, they overheated the economy. They gave hundreds of billions of dollars away to people who already have a lot of money. Through the COVID epidemic, Canadian savings rates went up. They're just flush with cash. And so they're happy. They don't care about losing freedom of expression or control over national borders or uh, an independent press or any of that kind of stuff because they got money in their pocket. Um, and that's the CCP model. We take away your freedoms, and you get to make quite a bit of money. Until we decide that you can't make quite a bit of money. Like that's what's happened in China recently, is that they're not supporting small businesses at all, and so the government is taking over the small businesses. So that means you just lost your small business, which means uh, you have the freedom to make money until we decide you don't have the freedom to make money. And yeah, so he lent out a bunch of money, overinflated the economy, and now he's going to call an election while people have still got the money in their pocket. He literally bought votes. Seamus O'Regan is the premier of Newfoundland, I think. He went with Justin down to on the Aga Khan vacation. And pretty certain the Muskrat Falls, he got $5 billion or something like that. Seamus O'Regan, see the premier of Newfoundland? Some connection there. Seamus O'Regan went with Trudeau on the Aga Khan visit. So he's going to give out a bunch of money for universal daycare. And I don't hear anybody in Canada saying, okay, hang on, Liberals. Keep your hands off our infants' brains, okay? We're not impressed with the education that you're providing. Like, not at all. So that's an issue. It's unfortunately the case that the family is broken apart to such an extent that the Canadian economy can't function without mothers of infants working, that the government now has to pay for the daycare. That's probably necessary. But it's sure going to put a lot of university students with useless diversity degrees to work in daycares, probably, isn't it? I heard there's a university in the United States, there's 130 diversity officers in one university. 130 people looking to make sure that transgendered people and gay people and people of color and women occupy more of the positions of power within the university, and that the whole shit show is funded. So there's a lot of Americans just like, we don't like what you're doing. You're brainwashing people, and we'd rather not pay for it. Tough luck. In the United States, the federal government has taken on the responsibility for the student loans. So the Liberals are going to ask, okay, well, forgive the student loan because, we borrowed $100,000 to get a useless degree that the university pushed out on us. Absolutely bloated administrations that people are paying for. What did they do? You could get away without bloated administrations before. Union jobs, probably a lot, right? So you got a huge number of pretty useless administrators, even worse professors, because they're not teaching anything about what the real values of Western society are. Democracy, science, critical thinking, Christianity, basically. They're not pushing that forward, so they're destroying the country. Okay, so what's that got to do with Trudeau? Yeah, he paid everybody off. Now there's going to be an election. He's paid off enough of the media that there's not going to be any real serious criticism of Theresa Tam. She would have been better positioned to know that the lab leak hypothesis was a valid hypothesis than almost anyone in the world. She was an absolute expert on this. She saw what was coming. She predicted, I think, a few years ago, she said, yeah, it's going to come from China. It's going to arrive on an airplane. and we're going to have to lock everything down. She said that a few years ago. You can't really Canadian politics, United States politics, they're so similar. So what Donald Trump did was he nailed the lab leak hypothesis, and he nailed the election fraud. He got those two things right. Those are two very big things to get right. And you still see unsubstantiated claims of this, and they're saying, oh no, he's totally out to lunch, which is so crazy, because there's 100 different ways to look at the election fraud. You're going to say that all of them are totally wrong if they criticize that election? It is so anti-scientific. It is so lacking in the critical spirit. The French talk about it as a critical spirit. Wow. Okay, and so the election's coming up, and I'll bet you this is what happens. There's going to be the regular elections. There's going to be, they are predicting about 5 million mail-in votes. If the election is close, or if the Conservatives appear to be really winning on election day, over the next 2 or 3 days, the key, what are they called? The key ridings in Canada that will really shift the election will see an unnatural increase in the number of votes for Trudeau. That's what happened in the United States. Key districts, there's a vote happens, suddenly in the key districts, there's an increase in the number of votes from those districts. So I have to do these things in under 15 minutes. So I'd like to actually just... The West, most Canadians, I think, have a case of Donald Trump derangement syndrome that is phenomenal. I'm just going to do this off the top of my head. Obama said that there was going to be a real problem, a real threat of nuclear war with North Korea. Obama didn't want to talk to Donald Trump much, but he said, that's a problem. I couldn't solve it. I sure as hell hope you can. And he solved it. He became sort of buddy-buddy and got under the skin of the dictator there. And people are not talking about the threat of nuclear war anymore. He may have prevented nuclear war with North Korea, which probably would have involved a nuclear war with China. He had control over the southern border. He came out and criticized BLM. He spotted them for what they are from the beginning. He spotted the evil influence of critical race theory in the United States, how much trouble that was going to cause. He maintained the sanctions on Iran. Hey, that's a bit of a mixed blessing, I guess. He spotted China for the problem it was. He was nominated for 2 Nobel Prizes for bringing peace to the Middle East. How long have we been listening to the conversation? Oh, we'll never have peace in the Middle East, never have... He was nominated for 2 Nobel Prizes. He formed a military alliance with India to stand up against China. So you got the United States, India, Japan, and Australia are really putting their foot down and saying, we know which side we're on. So Britain and France and Germany are joining in. I don't see Canada anywhere in there. What Canadians won't do is they won't look at the number of Chinese citizens that they have in Canada. They're not loyal to Canada. You can complain about the Uyghurs and all of that. That's a distraction. That's exactly what China would want us to do, because it detracts attention from the fact that they're taking over our own democracy. They don't care what we say about that. Okay. That's my view on the upcoming federal election in Canada.